too that's got the flu or a not so jumpy frog. A well-trained veterinarian, most often called a vet, has just the skills to cure the ills of every kind of pet. When a dog won't bark and a cat won't purr, when a bird goes bald or a turtle grows fur, when a rabbit's got a limp and an earache too, when a cow goes when she should go, when a horse gets hiccups and they just won't stop, when a fish is all red from a belly flop, when a gerbil has germs, you can bet that pet's gonna get much better when it sees the vet. Now animals get sick, of course, the same as you and me, but the vet can make them well again and frisky as can be. So when a hard-luck duck got a broken beak, when a parrot's got a cold and she just can't speak, when a mouse gets mumps, you can bet that pet's gonna get much better when it sees the vet. Yes, the pet will get better when it sees the vet.
Good morning, everyone. We are live from the Prince of Wales School in Dorchester. It's Thursday, the 8th of October, 2020. If you're listening this morning, do make sure you say hello in the comment box. We always like to know who's there, and especially today because we are joined by a very special guest. And I'm going to say a big good morning to Emily. Good morning, Emily.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
How are you this morning, Emily?
I'm hiding from the rain at the moment, but I'm all right. Nice to see you.
I think that's understandable. Now, Emily, you've got a very special job that you've come to tell us about today, and the video that was on before was a bit of a clue to everyone. Could you let us know what your job is, Emily?
So I am a farm animal vet, so I look after farm animals, and in particular, I spend quite a lot of time looking after sheep.
Ah, there's a bit of a clue behind you there, Emily.
Yeah, I'm hiding in a sheep shed. I don't know if you know, a bit of a fun fact. Most sheep lamb in the spring, but in Dorset, we're very special because we have a breed of sheep called the Dorset, which you can see behind you, and they lamb all year round. So these girls are going to start lambing in the next week. So I'm hiding in their straw bed with them to talk to you this morning.
Fantastic. And I would love the children listening this morning, if you've got any questions for Emily, who is a sheep vet, then we would love to have those in the comment box. Perhaps you can have a discussion in your classes, what sort of questions you might be able to ask. I'll get it started, Emily. What made you want to be a sheep vet in particular?
Well, the first thing is that I really like sheep. Now that might sound like a bit of an obvious thing to say, but they're really nice animals to work with. When I started being a baby vet, I wasn't very strong, and they're much easier for me to help than some of the bigger animals. But they're really nice animals to work with, and they're really interesting as well. They are really tough cookies for most of the time, but they do get some health problems, but which is really interesting to try and sort out. So mostly because I really like working with them.
Excellent. And how long did it take you to become a vet?
Okay, so it took me, so I had to I did all my school education and then to college, but then I went to university, and my training at university was 6 years. So I'm conscious that's probably how old some of the listeners are today. Yeah. So six years at school, at university.
Fantastic. And during that time, did you have to choose to specialize in sheep?
No. So something about being a vet that's really interesting, it's a bit different to a doctor. So the day you finish vet school, you should be able to look after or help at least any animal that you get presented with. So my course, I had to learn about sheep and cats and dogs and guinea pigs and ferrets, not crocodiles. We didn't cover crocodiles, but I know who I would need to ring if I got asked about crocodiles. So we have to be able to do a bit of everything. But when I left university, I came to Dorset to work for a practice that just looks after farm animals. So I specialised by just making sure I was unlikely to see crocodiles in Dorset. So that's how I avoided that one.
And you gave the example of a doctor there. Now, with a doctor, the patient walks into the surgery and is able to talk to the doctor and
Yeah.
be able to explain their symptoms and say perhaps they've got a headache or they've got a bad back. The patient can say those things. Now, can you talk to the sheep?
No, not really. Although if you'd come 5 minutes earlier, I was chatting away to the sheep in here, but they weren't really talking back. So no, that's one of the tricky things. As farmers and as vets, we have to look for really, really little clues that they're off colour, and sometimes that might be as simple as, so sheep are a flock animal, so they need their friends. Their friends are really important to them. So if a sheep goes and decides it actually wants to be on its own, that's not normal, but that might be very, you'd have to spend quite a lot of time looking for them and studying that. So it can be very, very tricky. Yeah, so it would be much easier if they could tell us where it hurt or what they're feeling poorly about. So yeah, it's much harder than being a doctor.
And Emily, we've got our first question from a pupil here. Arthur, who's in year 2, asks, how old does a ewe have to be to have babies?
Okay, that's a really good question. So it depends a little bit on the type of sheep that you have, but the girls that you can see behind you, I've got some first-time mums here, and they will be lambing on their 2nd birthday. So lambing on their 2nd birthday. Another really good question which somebody else may have thought of is, well, how many sheep years is a year, or how long do sheep live for? So sheep can easily live up to 10 years old, so that might give you a little bit of an idea of time frame, but 2 years old for their first lambs.
Fantastic. Hazel's been in touch and says that Emily is one of the best vets that help us at Maiden Castle Farm. So there's a glowing endorsement there from Maiden Castle Farm. We've also got we've got a question from Alfie in year 2 who says, what food do sheep eat as well as grass?
Well, their favourite thing is grass, and if you can give them that all year round, that they'll be totally happy with that. But sometimes, if you think about what it looks like outside your window, or just these sheep are getting close to lambing, that we have to bring them in, or if there's snow on the ground, we have to give them other feeds, and they'll eat hay, which is basically dried grass, or they'll eat haylage, which is dried grass but not quite as dry. These sheep, and I've got to be really careful, because if I shake a bucket in here, so these sheep really like cake. Now, cake is not what you and I would think was, it's not chocolate cake. It's basically a hard feed, like the biscuits, I suppose very similar to the biscuits you feed your dog or your cat. Now, if I shake the bucket in here, and Hazel will back me up on this, I'll probably get knocked over in the pen. So don't mention cake. So they'll have a little bit of cakes sometimes. But sheep have really sweet tooth, really, really sweet tooth. So you may see on the sheep farm that farms have got buckets with really dark brown stuff in it, which is basically molasses. Anyway, don't worry about that. But it's basically candy. It's sweets for sheep, and these girls would knock you over to get to that if they could. But grass is their absolute favourite.
Now, I'm thinking about your job, Emily. Is it a kind of 9 to 5 job where you start at the same time every day and finish at the same time every day?
Well, so I work for a practice, and the practice office hours are open the same time every day. So I have a working day, and they close, and they're probably very similar hours to any other job. But the thing that's a little bit different is that we do there's no A&E for farm animals. So if one of my patients on a farm has an emergency, so whether it's a difficult lambing or a difficult calving or a really sick animal or an accident's happened or something like that, they need somebody out of hours and they can't go to an A&E. So as a farm animal vet, I do on call. So one night a week and every so often on a weekend, I do out of hours. So what that means is if Hazel needs me at 2 o'clock in the morning, she'll ring and I have to go, and I have to get in my little van, and I have to go and help. It can sometimes mean you have to go and rescue animals at 2 o'clock in the morning, which can be tricky to get out of bed sometimes. But they are the most fun calls. So I was on call last week, and I had to go and do 2 carvings in a night, and I got back to bed at a very unpleasant hour. But we had 2 live calves, which was fantastic. So really, it's hard to get out of bed, but really good fun and really rewarding.
A question from Jensen in year 2. How many sheep are at the farm, I suppose, where you're at now?
Okay, so the farm I'm at now, I think they have about 150 altogether, and there's about 70 behind me that are about to start lambing. I look after sheep flocks of all sizes, so I look after flocks that have 5 sheep at home, all the way up to flocks that probably will have thousands of breeding ewes. So, and I, up to 2, 3, 4,000, and they're all very different, and they're all very special, and they all have their own different challenges. So, yeah, so this is quite a small flock in comparison with some of the others that I work with.
And do the
so yeah,
ewes...
imagine that. Imagine what 3,000 ewes looks like. You'd need a big garden for that, I think.
Do the ewes just have one baby, one lamb?
So it depends a little bit on the farm and what kind of sheep they've got, but they can have lots of lambs. So sometimes they can have as many as 4, but we really only want them to have 2. They struggle to look after any more than 2. So 2 is the magic number on a sheep farm.
And do they get? Is there any kind of scans for sheep to check how many ewes they've got before?
Yeah. So in the same way that humans can have ultrasound scans to see how big the baby is and guess when the baby's due, sheep are exactly the same, and you can tell not only if they are in lamb, but also how many lambs they're going to have. So the sheep behind me, they've been scanned, and they're only having single babies, so they're not getting quite as much cake as there's some sheep over my shoulder who are having twins and triplets. So it's a really that's quite a fun day for most sheep farms. You get a bit nervous to, hopefully they are all in lamb, and then you have to get told how many lambs you're having. So 2 is still the magic number.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Emily, for joining us in Assembly today. We've learned lots of different things, and it's been really interesting to join you in the field, as it were, or in the barn because of the rain.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go back outside now. But yes, thank you for joining me this morning.
Well, we hope you stay dry, and we thank you very much again. We'll be back tomorrow, everyone, for our next assembly. In fact, tomorrow we'll be celebrating harvest, so we're going to have our special harvest assembly. Thank you very much, Emily.
Thank you, guys.
Take care now.